Yo, my name is Big Lou, and you're now listening to Go Produce. We're the show that explores how music industry professionals turn their passion into profits. In this episode, we've got Dan Hand, a proficient entrepreneur who is very familiar with managing artists, record labels, and with A&R. The Go Produce focus of this episode is, how does the entrepreneur mindset help you navigate and establish yourself within the music industry? If you want to learn more about recording labels and the realm of A&R, then this episode is for you. Thank you, Dan, for being here. I want you to know that we do appreciate your time, so let's go ahead and make the most of this. Let's go produce. Listeners, let me tell you who we've got here today. Dan Hand, he's been an active participant in the music business for over 10 years. He's an artist manager at Inside Pocket. He's managed his own roster of musical artists since 2009. He's also worked as A&R at Underground Operations, which is an independent record label, as well as for the major record label known as Universal Music Canada. Artists who've partnered with Dan have gone on to see worldwide album releases and touring, gold records, music video awards, Juno Award nominations, and they've collected government arts funding dollars, amongst many other professional and personal accomplishments. As a proficient entrepreneur over the last 8 years, Dan has founded both Cloud Empire Creative, an entertainment booking company, and the now defunct Black Lamb Music, which is, or was, an artist management company. His most recent industry move was joining forces with Gavin Brown at his music company called Inside Pocket, managing artists such as Karis, Haviland, and recording producer Dejan Martineau. His management alumni roster is made up of Abandon All Ships, Dare Knots, Diamonds, Demons, and Rob Moore, amongst many more. Dan Hand, welcome to the show. Clearly, I'm not perfect. We got room to grow, but I hope you're happy.
Oh, sounds great.
Beautiful,
Thank you
beautiful.
so much for the lovely intro.
Yeah, we put something together for you. But like I said, let's not waste any time. Let's go right into it and go producing. And we'll start off with Boom, our first segment of the day, which is called The Basics. In the basics, we're going to run through some simple questions to get you know on a more get to know you on a more personal level, understand your professional background so that we can move forward with deeper understanding. I like to start off. Any questions first about that?
Nope.
No? Beautiful,
Fire
beautiful.
away.
I like to start off this segment with this question. This question being, what is your first musical memory?
I I think it was seeing Sharon, Lois, and Bram when I
Sharon,
was
Lois, and Bram.
super young at the Hummingbird Center, I believe, is what the back of the photo said.
I don't even know who that is. So way back when?
Oh,
Just a concert that you went to?
They're a children's musical act that I think only retired last year. Legendary, Skinnamarink Dinky Dink is their
That's
number
them.
one. That's them.
As soon as you said that, I
took me to
clued
see them
in.
when I was, my parents would have taken me when I was super young. So I honestly don't even know if the memory is a true memory or it's just from me being young and looking at photos of me at the concert. But
That's a good point.
That's that's probably the earliest musical memory. Music was always a big thing.
Do you think that moment influenced decisions that you made after in terms of going into music?
I don't think that there was ever really a choice. So probably. Music was always a giant thing in our house. I watched Sharon, Lois, and Bram as a kid, and first thing is my parents bought me like a toy plastic guitar, and I put that around, around my body every day, and just walked around with it like it was a bag. It was basically music was always a part of my life.
An extension of your body, if you will.
Yeah, exactly.
Very nice. Very nice. I like that. Cool. In your experience, you've worked with many artists in capacities as an A&R representative and as a manager for managing artists. What can you walk us through the experiences of each, and then perhaps which one you prefer the most, which one you see yourself doing more?
Absolutely. So an A&R representative, their job is artists and repertoire. So you're hired by your label to basically go out and find the artists and help them build the repertoire. You find an artist that you love, and then the idea is about building all of the art around them. So you find the right producer for that artist. If the artist doesn't have quite the right songs, maybe you set up different songwriting sessions and get them co-writing with different writers. And then it goes down the line. You help them find the right photographer to take the right press photos that are going to say the right, or that's going to help the artist tell their story. You're going to find the right director for the music videos. And basically, you're there from the beginning of signing the artist to that label to the moment that the product is now a product and ready to be marketed. And that's essentially A&R. And you're the liaison between the label and the artist.
Essentially, what AR is. That's a whole lot of stuff, and you got to be very hungry. You're chasing a lot of people constantly, and you're always looking for things. No,
absolutely, yeah.
You're looking for needles in a needle stack.
100%, and it's super fun.
It's super fun, but so you say super fun, but having to chase people all the time is also super exhausting. So, what is your state of mind to make it fun?
I'm a driven guy that loves to see something come together. Like to see an artist on stage in a club, and this is actually going to play into management as well, and we'll get to that. But to see like an artist, say in a club, for example, the first time you walk in and you hear something, there's something about that act on stage, whether it's the voice, it's the song, whatever the case may be, whatever's drawn you in, and you're like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is what I want to chase. This is what I want to help build. And then to literally take it from that point when you're talking to them, now you've built trust. And now you're discussing how to make it to like the next step. It's like, well, we got to make music. Who are we going to work with? Which producer are we going to go with? And then it's about thinking about like all those things and kind of just putting all the pieces together. And in the end of the day, you end up with a record in your hand.
Whoa, how'd that happen?
And usually because you've been very passionate about. Oh,
yeah.
What happened? Is that a lag again?
No. You said you usually end up with a record in your house. Like, whoa, surprise. No, it's awesome.
Oh, yeah. No. But yeah, so it's like by the end, you end up with this record in your hand that you helped create on every piece, And that to me is just super rewarding. So yeah, you're chasing people and you're constantly on the hunt for new music, but that's also the business.
Right. It is the business. Do you like that more than managing artists, actually?
No. I wake up every day to manage artists. That's my passion in life. That's why I left my role in A&R at a label. And partially, without any disrespect to anyone I've ever worked with, it's the role of manager where you still get to be an A&R, but you get to see the project all the way through to the absolute end.
Right.
The way I explain management to my mom, who still, occasionally asks me what I do for a living and tries to ask me to explain what my job is and how I've been able to survive.
Yeah.
Management is doing the business for the artist so the artist can focus on the art. I think that's the easiest way to explain it.
Yeah.
So even,
ultimately,
yeah, it's like in the management role, you're still focused on A&R because you still want everything to be great, right? So, and more often than not nowadays, it's like you don't get the label until there's already something that has been A&R'd. You go into the club, you find that band on stage. It's like, okay, well now we gotta get the songs a bit better to make the labels interested,
right?
And
right.
You go and you do the exact same thing. You get the right producer and the right songwriters, and you start working on the songs, and you start building a product, and then you get the A&R guy interested. A&R person interested. And then you bring in the A&R person to work with you on everything. But then once the product is made, the great thing about the management job is it's not over. Now you're working with the marketing team. Right. And you're working with the booking agent to get that act on the road. And you're finding a publishing deal to help exploit different avenues of the business. And you're pretty much involved in kind of every aspect of business. And to me, that is so much fun and so rewarding when it's all, when everything's moving and the artist is successful and happy and their vision is being seen through. And you're just like out there. I think as I put in my my Twitter bio, it's like fighting the good fight. And that's where, as a manager, it's like, again, I wake up for it.
Yeah.
That's what gets me out of bed. Yeah.
It's, I think, based off how you describe that, it's a more intimate relationship and it's extended. It's not just like an uncle coming in and raising their niece or nephew for a week or two or babysitting, like the A&R would, like it's very niche. You're there the whole time, all the way through. You're in it fully. Not that the A&R isn't, but more so.
Yeah, you like the A&R usually is a part of the business through and through, but not as hands-on, you know. The A&R is kind of like once the product is made, and again, I said product, the album, whatever,
Right.
the single, whatever piece
Today, yeah, who knows?
you're working on at this moment, you know, and it goes into the hands of marketing and then moves kind of on. You know, the A&R is still the liaison between the label and the manager and the artist. They're still a part of the conversation. They're still a part of your team. But you know, you're probably not. You probably don't have a need to call them every day, like every manager and artist do talk. You know,
that's fair. Cool. Yeah. What led to the establishment of Cloud Empire Creative?
I was working at Universal, and it was, and this comes with absolutely no disrespect to Universal or anyone there or anything, and I don't want it to come across that way. But I was slowly realizing the job wasn't for me at the time. It was a dark time in the music industry. There were, you know, we didn't have Spotify in Canada yet, or it was slowly coming to Canada. It hadn't made
dark times. I know.
Yeah, it hadn't made like its splash. Everyone was still worried about sales being down, and I realized that I wanted to focus on artist management. So I had left Universal and I started Cloud Empire initially to be a management company. It very quickly, you know, based on the people I was working with at the time, turned it into a talent booking company as well as management. We dabbled in merch production for artists for a minute, and we built what we thought at the time was a very interesting one-stop shop for a lot of artists. We had an office with a studio in it where we managed the producer in the studio. So our idea was like a band could come in, like actually make their music in here, you know, and then print their merch with us, and then, you know, play some of the venues. And if it all went well, I'd manage the band too. I don't think we ever actually did that for any one artist.
Checked off all four boxes.
Yeah, but you know, we just kind of built this whole like one-stop shop artist service kind of business.
And what went wrong with it?
Nothing went wrong. We just realized where our strengths were, and focused on them. That was essentially it. You know, the brand worked better in a corporate environment, because we were doing more talent buying and working on the corporate side, hiring artists to place stuff as opposed to representing the artist. So at some point it made sense to separate the artist management and the talent buying. And that's where Black Lamb was born. So Cloud Empire still exists, and I still own it. And there's an employee that still books bands for corporate gigs.
Yeah. Very cool.
Yeah.
So Black Lamb was born because of that, but why is Black Lamb no longer?
Black Lamb is no longer because I started, I moved over to Inside Pocket. I then, I was working with a young manager who kept the company alive for a year after I had left, and then she exited the business. So
times change. You got to change with them. Nice.
Exactly. Yeah. She's super happy. You know, I still talk to her. Like everything was completely amicable. I completely understand why she made her decision, but that's why it's no more.
That's fair. And when it can happen that way, you can really you really got to appreciate that, because we all know it could have gone very differently.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes 100%.
It
Yeah. My last question for this segment is, what kinds of professional and personal goals do you set for yourself and then for your artists as well to maintain high quality products?
That's a deep one. Honestly, it's just about waking up every day and being the absolute best that you can be. That's
every day is an opportunity.
Yeah, every day is a new opportunity. You just have to be the best. You have to go and you have to give it your 100. And being honest with yourself, right? You know, there will be days that you can't give it your 100, and you have to pay attention to that too, and take care of your own. Like you have to take care of your own mental health and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it's just about putting your best foot forward all the time and just being honest and transparent and trying to do good business. That's pretty much it. Does that answer the question, or did I just?
I think it does.
Into a tangent.
No, I think it does, and I just want to reiterate the fact that you said put your best foot forward, but also accept that not every day is going to be your best. But as
Yep.
long as you're trying to make it your best, then you're making progress, which is cool.
Exactly. I would say one thing that was actually fairly interesting is the Havlin story. So my friend was a judge on YTV Next Star, a kid's songwriting, not even no, a kid's performance competition, no songwriting at all, right? And he tells me, Dan, you got to come see this one kid. I think there's like something there. You'd probably enjoy it. And I go see him, and he's doing his dance thing up on, with his fancy shirt, singing pop songs and stuff. And he comes to me after and he hands me a CD with like a few songs on it. And they're just like him and an acoustic guitar. And I was just like, I did not expect that from you. I totally I didn't know that you were writing your own music. And he was 16. And it was just like, dude, some of this could be like Ed Sheeran.
Wow.
So that was one that, that's actually a really surprising one for me, because that was just like my friend was like, come see him. And I'm like, okay.
But that is very interesting. I mean, you got to put yourself out there. Whenever you're ready, just do it. I mean, it worked for him.
Yeah, absolutely.
him.
And, and we worked together for a few years writing, I didn't write the songs with him, but I helped him, go through his songs. He writes like a madman, and, co-writes or writes songs by himself, co-writing with others and stuff. It's just like, and then we sat there and we got to the point where we were like, okay, we finally feel comfortable in these 5 songs as a direction, and then put out a record.
Boom. There you go.
Yeah, it was awesome.
I like it. Well, those are our not so basic questions. I hope you're feeling good. I hope you're feeling ready to continue, because our next segment is the rapid fire speed round.
Love it.
Nice. Speed round it is. What we're going to do is we're going to throw simple questions at you at a rapid pace, and you have 3 to 5 seconds to answer them. It's just a yes or a no, a this or a that, a neither or a both. No justifications, no reasoning. You can do that afterwards. If anything sticks out, we will have 1 or 2 that we'll ask about as well, depending on your responses. Cool.
Love it. Let's go.
Let's do it. Podcast or playlist? Not a trick question. Playlist. Be a happy fool or a troubled genius?
Happy fool.
A live-in massage therapist or a live-in chef?
Live-in chef.
Surprise party or a theme party?
Surprise party.
Do you prefer taste or smell?
Taste.
Do you prefer the color blue or red?
Blue.
Does your birthday always happen on the same day? Curious.
Yes.
Yes? Mac or PC?
Mac.
Suit and tie or jeans?
Jeans.
Would you prefer a job you love or one that pays you more dollar bills?
Love every day.
Love. Indie or a major label?
I can't answer that.
No comment. Adventurous?
No comment.
Oh, adventurous or cautious?
Adventurous.
Do you prefer working alone or on a team?
Team.
Comedy or a thriller?
Comedy.
Comedy. Do you prefer live or pre-recorded?
Live.
Live. Sorry, we didn't do that today. Poker or chess?
Poker.
We asked this already. I'm going to do it again for the point of it. Booking or managing artists?
Management. 100%.
I hear you. Rich or successful?
Successful.
Call or text?
Text.
And do you like to work hard or do you like to play hard?
Work hard.
Work hard all day. Okay. I've got 1 question for you, but I'm curious. Do you have anything that you want to clarify on?
No. The major versus indie thing.
Sure. Okay.
I actually can't decide, because it all depends on, going back to another question, the team that you're working with. Both of them have their pros. Both of them have their cons, I'm sure. But if you're working with a team that believes in the art that you're pushing, the artist that you're pushing, both can be amazing, fulfilling experiences.
I hear you. And I'm personally curious about the live or pre-recorded, mainly because you said you find most of your new artist or new music virtually online.
There's just a feeling of going to a live show that cannot be replaced.
Agreed.
And I'm probably feeling that a little more due to the times.
Right. I hear you.
Not to focus on them, but you know, you know, like I love pre-recorded music. I listen to records all the time. I listen to music, you know, as a large part of my day just for fun and enjoyment. But there's something about going to a live show that is just so exciting and cannot be replaced.
Yeah, you got to get it.
Yeah. So, and that goes across like any genre, you know, like it's just, yeah.
It's true. It's true. Being there physically is different. Like
Exactly.
if having this conversation in person would have been different, but it's just, it is what it is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And also like the experience around live, which I was also taking into it. It's like, you know, very rarely do I go to a live show without a friend, you know, it's like,
yeah, that's true too. Good point.
You know, there's camaraderie and enjoyment, and you get to interact with music with other people in the room, which is a very different experience. And like, you know, I've been on tour. It can be a different experience every night. Songs are the same, performance is the same, but the room and the people are different.
And it can be different.
Yeah, and different is great sometimes. Can be bad, but it's great.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, ultimately, we need things different because if it was always the same, we get real dry real quick.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, Dan. Next up, we've got What's Yo Take, our third segment. Those sound effects are great.
Love it.
What we're going to do here is I'm going to provide you with different quotes, statements, ideas, or concepts, and we only want your perspective. We want to open our minds to different horizons, and that's the approach. Cool?
Love it.
Nice.
Let's go.
Becoming a talent scout does not require any formal training. What's your take?
True. Becoming a talent scout does not. I think people generally gravitate towards talent, and it's about having the drive to find that talent and then do something with it. Now, talent scout itself is very vague as what are you a talent scout for? You know, is it for a label? Is it for a booking agency? Is it for management? I think if the question is, you know, do you need formal training to be a booking agent? You know, yeah, you need some sort of training, definitely. Do you know?
Where does one attain that kind of training? Is there a playbook, or do you collaborate with other professionals?
I suggest that everybody reads that book, All You Need to Know About the Music Business. It's been around for years. I know that I'm pretty sure it's a textbook that every college program out there, you know, makes part of their curriculum. Can't remember the exact name of it.
We can add that to the show notes afterwards. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. So I'll find it and send it to you. That's like, you know, recommended reading or required reading immediately. There are a bunch of school programs that are absolutely wonderful and really help give people the leg up for any music industry job. You know, just even learning the lingo, you know, it's like a huge skill before you walk into something. But the number one thing too is like finding experience. You know, volunteer, intern, be in the room with people, be the fly on the wall, so you can actually like experience all the different things that go on. Whether that's helping, like volunteering to help load in the local show, or you know, finding an internship with the booking agency manager, record label, something.
Yeah. I think it's a quote. I may slaughter this, but I think it's Dax Shepard. He's an American writer, poet. And he said that success is a war of attrition, and you literally win by sticking around for longer. So
Absolutely.
Put in the time, volunteer, put in the time, be the intern, work for no money, but make sure that you're working harder than everyone else in the room. Make sure you're working smarter than everyone else in the room, and it pays off in the end.
Nailed it. 100%.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing from you. Cool. My next one is record labels are a thing of the past.
No.
Why?
I don't think so. Because I still think record labels have a place. You can go out and do it on your own, but not everyone can be Chance the Rapper. Record labels bring many positives to many careers, whether that's the team around the artist that, you know, all have years of experience in different depending on what it is, like there's just years of experience. There's money, that record labels bring to the table. Some
Which
artists,
speaks loudly.
yeah, and not every artist can go and fund a $50,000 record plus another $50,000 marketing budget, and another $50,000 in music videos. It's like that is a huge part of it. But for mostly, I think it's like a team of experienced individuals that have gone out and done it before, that can bring professionalism to the table and bring strategy that works and can just help elevate careers. And I don't think that will go away anytime soon.
I'm not. The other end of it is, I value their experience, their being you, and then everyone else who's been in the industry for quite some time. But at the same time, because things are changing so rapidly, do you think that experience could be a bit of a crutch, or because they're so used to being in their own ways and it's no longer relevant? Or do you think it'll help adjust to these changes more rapidly?
That's kind of, it goes down to whoever's on the team. I've seen both in my experience over the years. I want to say that people, especially at a record label, like they have to stay relevant too. So they're working every day to adjust with the times, to be on the cutting edge of technology, to be forward thinking. I think this goes back to before my time in the music industry, but I think Napster really taught everyone that you can't just sit back and hope for the best. You know what I mean?
Lesson learned.
That came in and ruined everything for everyone. And they, as the legends go, again, I was too young. I was just listening to Lars from Metallica complain about a 13-year-old kid downloading his record and being like, maybe I shouldn't use Napster.
Yeah.
But yeah, again, it goes team by team. Everyone we work with is very forward thinking. They're jumping on, they know exactly what's coming up. If the new social trend is like on the horizon, they're on top of it. New technology, we're on top of it. And I find that actually really beneficial, because sometimes it is hard to know, like let's say a year ago, it's like I never would have known that TikTok was going to be a huge social platform.
Yeah.
It's like,
and I think it's still early. To be honest, in its life cycle.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
Yeah, very cool.
Sorry, can I just add one more piece to that?
Please do.
The other side of that question is there room for independence now? And absolutely, there is room for more artists like Chance the Rapper. There is more avenues to go out there and do it without a label. But I just don't think I don't think labels are going to go away anytime soon. I think there is still a huge need for them.
Yeah, there are artists that don't have the business drive, or they have it but they don't want to focus on it, and then there are artists that do have the business acumen and they want to pursue it.
Absolutely, and just the assets and the skill level.
That's a good point too. Assets, yeah. As you mentioned earlier, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Collecting government art funding dollars is a simple process.
No.
Okay.
Oh man.
that was kind of obvious, but where would you say people should go to start this process?
Factors like the number one that everyone knows about. It's also the national funding agency. Each province has their own different music programs and arts funding that you can apply for. I know the city of Toronto even has its own funding. So it's like, being in Ontario is great, or being in Toronto is great because you have access to Toronto, Ontario Music Fund, as well as Factor. Factor is probably the easiest to navigate and the one that's the most simplest to understand in terms of finding, that money that's going to help turn your dollar or your dollar into $2 or whatever the actual grant is that you're applying for. Yeah. But it's a lot of paperwork. It's a lot of accounting. It's a lot of understanding. The one thing that I think most people don't understand, especially when I'm talking to international music business folk, is that it's not free money. Nothing is free money. It's always like, it's covering 50 or 75% depending on which grant you're applying for. There's so much work to be done ahead of time to prove that you know how to spend the money. And then there's so much money on the back end showing that you have spent the money properly. You know, I think a lot of people just look at Canada and think that our government is just writing these giant blank checks to to any artist on the street too. And that's completely false. Like, you have to have shown some level of success before the government or the funding agency opens the checkbook.
Right. Right. Are there any tricks or techniques that artists can apply that you are able to share to help get the interest for these grants for the grant evaluators?
The one thing that I've noticed that works the most, and I've been told that works the most, is honesty is key. Being very realistic with where you're at. Being a band that started yesterday, applying for a $10,000 grant, saying that by next week you'll be playing Bud Stage, is not going to fly. And another really practical one that I've heard the most complaints about is a lot of if there's any artists out there that are writing these grants that are watching this or listening to this, reach out to the people that you're claiming as your marketing team before you put them in your marketing plan. There's been so many, I've heard stories, and I've even been included in them, where it's like, well, we're using this person for radio, and then someone that's reading the application asks, like, oh, have you been working with this band? And it's like, nope. Don't
Just
even know
flush
who
yourself
they
down
are.
the toilet. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like, it's about being honest, it's about being realistic, it's about not trying to bite off more than you can chew, and and just
I hear you.
Yeah. Sorry, I trailed off there.
No, it's good. What about working with people that aren't accessible enough? Like, constantly having to work, like artists that maybe you have to show up to this meeting, you're not showing up to this meeting. Hey, you're not responding to my emails, that kind of stuff. How do you cope with that?
I tend to not really work with anyone that does that sort of thing.
Cut them loose.
Yeah, it's like, I have a pretty good gauge of figuring out how invested someone is in their own career before we get to the point where we're involving other people. So there's never really like hey, you didn't show up to this meeting. Because usually the meeting that they're not showing up to is like one of the early days ones that they've set with me.
Yeah.
As a manager, you're making a commission, right? So you're making a percentage of what the artist makes. If you're making 20%, why are you doing 80% of the work? Is kind of what I say to people sometimes. The artist needs to be the one invested in their career. They need to be driving their career. If you are talking to someone, unless they've written the best song ever, if they're not showing up to meetings, not taking phone calls, not getting back to you on email, there's not really a lot that you can do for them. I can guarantee that Lady Gaga was probably never like that.
Right. Yeah, you wouldn't get to that level. Yeah. This next, what's your take? Ensure everyone in the room is smarter than you. And that ties into what you were talking about earlier, because everyone needs to have that drive and everyone needs to work for themselves. But making sure that everyone else in the room is smarter than you or works at least as hard as you. What's your take on that?
Absolutely. You want to have a team where everyone, the way I look at it is like every team member is the top of their class, and is working just as hard as you. And if they're, maybe the top of their class is the wrong thing. It's really about working hard. It's you don't want to be on a team where someone is not showing up. It goes right back to the artist thing. It's like, we're all working towards the same goal here. Why are we all not working just as hard?
Yeah. Yeah. And if you got a weak link, you're working for them as well as the work that you're doing. So you're dragging down the whole team effort.
Absolutely. And again, when I say I want to take back my top of the class comment, because people make mistakes, and that's totally fine. If everyone's working just as hard as they possibly can, it doesn't matter if you've made that mistake. That can be forgiven and can be worked around and can be corrected. It's like, you're not gonna. The other thing too is if you're paying someone to do something, you don't want them just sitting on their rears, not doing that thing that you've paid them to do.
Exactly. Yeah. 100%. 100%. I'd rather see the person try and make a mistake and learn, because that's a learning opportunity, as opposed to shying away from even trying because they're too nervous to make that mistake.
Oh, 100%.
Like, stop wasting our time,
Yeah. And I also think the other thing about the music business too is that, like, to a degree, everyone's still making it up as they go. So you're like,
it's so true.
like, you're gonna suggest that strategy that might be a complete misfire and will have been a waste of time. But hey, if you didn't suggest it in the meeting, then you might never know what could happen. And maybe you suggest it in the meeting and everyone goes, "Oh, that's a great idea," and then they follow through on it and it doesn't work. And that doesn't make you a failure. It's like, you guys still tried, it just didn't work. So you pivot, and then you keep moving forward. Yeah.
You got to keep moving forward. And speaking of moving forward, we're going to move forward with the wheel challenge, because it spins. Get it? Yeah.
I get it. Let's do it.
Well, that's
Excited.
great, because next up, we're gonna do some spinning. Oof. We got to get better on that timing, sound guy. Come on.
Paying me enough now.
That's great. So what we're going to do with this wheel challenge is we're going to use this contraption behind me. We're going to spin it. I'm going to spin it for you because of obvious reasons. And depending on what it lands on, which rung, we're going to get a different challenge. And based off of that, I'll describe to you what we're doing from there. Cool?
Love it. Let's go.
So suspenseful. Oh, nice. All right. So I really quite enjoy this one. This one is called Drawing Blindfolded. I think you could tell by the little pencil.
Yep.
Yeah. So we're not actually going to blindfold you. We're just going to ask you to either look at me in the camera or look up, but just don't look down at your paper. The second rule is that you have 10 seconds. That's intense. I don't know, man. The next rule would be you have 10 seconds to draw this item. Okay?
Okay. And I'm not looking at it. So
was that sorry? Yeah. So no looking and 10 seconds. And I'm going to give you 3 different items to draw. And the angry sound guy is going to be your judge. Cool?
Okay.
Let's do it. The first one, if the angry sound guy is ready, I'm going to start the time. Your job is to draw a vinyl record. Go. Whenever you're ready, just let us know. If not, we'll tell you the time.
I think I got it.
Okay, give it to us. 2 seconds to spare.
To show?
Yeah, show it. Go on. Can you put a little close? Yeah. All right, angry sound guy, what you think of that? Ooh, that's the bell. That's the bell. You got 1 point. Nice. You're 1 for 1 right now.
Yeah.
You can
I'm
use
going to
the same
grab
page.
non-lined paper. Give me 1 second here. Let me reach over to the printer. That might be easier.
Nice. Yeah. Good call.
Sorry about that.
All right. So your next challenge will be to draw a sun with clouds. 10. 5 seconds. 2, 1, time. All right. Judgment says.
Yeah, that's fair.
No argument. Just accept it.
No,
Cool.
Yeah,
cool.
Get it.
All right. So this is your last chance
Hey, I
to
tried,
defend it.
right?
You take. I can't take that away. Your work ethic is great. But your last one, you could still get this. All right, I'm just gonna go ahead and say it. Your last object to draw is a microphone. 7 seconds.
Oh, I should have been better about that.
3 seconds.
Okay, I'm just going to give up now.
Okay, let's see it.
Oh, that's actually not nearly as bad as I thought it was.
What you think? I think that's a bell. That was just really low. Yeah? Yeah, there it is, louder. You got the bell. 2 out of 3. Dan, you've beat the blinded... Oh. The blinded. You beat the blindfolded drawing competition. Congratulations. Unfortunately, we don't have a prize for you because we didn't promise anything. But we'll just move on so you don't really challenge us on that.
Fair.
Cool. I'm glad we could do that. Which brings us to our last segment of the day. This one is called Clear the Air. What we want to do is eliminate brain fog for our listeners. And we want you to share your insights on experiences you've had so that we can navigate our hurdles better moving forward.
Let's do it.
First up, tell us about your time with Underground Operations, which was the indie label.
Yep.
And then Universal Music Canada, which is the major label, if you could talk about that. And how do they differ the most outside of the teams?
Yeah, I mean, Underground was something I started fresh out of college. So I did go to college for music business in Oshawa. And it was an independent label, so super small team. Depending on the year, it was like between 3 and 5, 6 people. And it was very hands-on. It was do everything. So I started my first year, I was an intern and I was packaging pre-orders in the mailroom, the mailroom being the same room as everything else. It was just a one-room office.
Yeah.
So just stuffing CDs and t-shirts into envelopes and mailing them out back when we still really sold CDs, 2008.
Way back when.
Going on tour with the artists, selling merch at shows, that slowly moved into like the marketing role. So helping roll out all the advertising, at the time, which was like magazine ads. We were still doing print ads, if you can believe it.
Times are changing so fast. I could believe anything now. I mean,
yeah. Online ads, making MySpace pages. That's it. That one dates me.
Yep. That's it. For sure.
Doing all that kind of stuff. And then, again, slowly morphing into the A&R role where it was like signing bands, working with them to find the right producers, the right artists, the right mixers for their records, helping with all the video stuff, finding the right director for the video, the right vision for the song, all that sort of fun jazz. Yeah. That's where, I did like the majority of like my grant writing work, working with Factor and Radio Star Maker and stuff as well. When I moved to Universal, the big difference was kind of the responsibility change. Now my job was to go and find the artists and work with them just on the music as opposed to kind of like the marketing and the rollout of everything else, or the music and the videos. And
were there any hard lessons you learned from the indie label being right out of college?
Yeah, I mean, nothing. There's probably a few that I can't quite say, if that makes sense, because it's other people's business and whatnot.
Yeah.
The one lesson I learned immediately was like, own your mistakes and really own your mistakes. That was kind of the lesson I learned immediately. It's like being right out of college, you're bound to actually like screw something up,
Mm-hmm.
And instead of trying to like cover it up, not that I ever did that, but instead of trying to like cover it up and and brush it under the rug and hope that nobody noticed, it was just like, guys, I need help.
And learn from it. Exactly. Ask for help. Exactly. Ask for help.
That's actually, if I was to go back, if we were to edit this and go back to answering the question properly, I would just say, the big lesson I learned is ask for help immediately.
Nice, clean, simple answer. Boom.
Yeah.
I like it. We touched on this a little bit earlier before, but how would you describe for an artist or a band to successfully position themselves in such a way that they fall in the field of view for an A&R?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I used to always say, your best song is what will carry, like what would get our attention. But I think that things have changed so much that and this is kind of unfortunate, but I think like the online presence has to be there to really get attention these days.
It's attention.
Yeah, like if you're looking at getting on my radar, Not only does the music have to be good and you have to be like doing something cool and everything has to be like, the message, the vibe, all that kind of stuff needs to be there. But the only way it's going to like even kind of make its way to me, unless I do happen to be in the right venue when you're playing on stage, is if everything is popping across the board. Like your online presence is up to date and up to speed. And I don't mean that like, oh, you need to have 1 million Spotify followers or 1 million Instagram followers, but what I mean is your Instagram has to be active, giving the message of your music and of you as an artist. So that's really hard to say on the broad strokes what exactly that means, but it's,
well, you have to be
like,
actively supplying it. It's part of a tool that you're using for your business, and if you're not utilizing it, then you're not serious about your business.
Absolutely, yeah. That nails it better than I just did. But yeah, like people just need to be like. I think the one thing that some artists unfortunately forget is that that is not the job of the label or the manager or whoever to stay on top of their social media. You can eventually get to a point where you hire social media managers to take care of stuff, but like it's an extension of the artist. It needs to be, especially early days, needs to be an extension of the artist. So they need to be active on those platforms and they need to know what works for them and what doesn't. Music is the number one driver in everything that I do. I need to love the music. I need to I need to be able to hear the talent and and understand why I want to listen to it and why I want to pursue it. But yeah, then there's like the work ethic of doing all the other things and keeping it looking good, I guess.
Yeah.
Across social media. And I don't mean that in a crappy like, oh, everyone needs to look good kind of way. I just mean like in a like, you need to be active and engaged online with your business.
Yeah. Agreed. To add to that, do you believe that artists should know, not every part, but know the music business, or at least be familiar with the music business prior to connecting with professionals in the business?
It helps. Certainly helps.
Does it help the professionals take them more seriously?
I think it helps both. I think it helps the artist understand what they're asking. A lot of times, now I'm going to go off on a tangent. Please bear with me on this.
Let's do it.
A lot of times artists come to managers with absolutely nothing on the go. It's like, hey, I wrote these songs and I want to be a star, so I think that we should work together. And what they don't realize is that, in that scenario, they're actually not bringing any value to the equation. It's not like, hey, I have a bunch of songs, we've been releasing songs, we have these spins on Spotify and these likes on Instagram, and I need someone to help me take it to the next level, or the business has gotten so busy that I can't actually focus on recording the next single because, people keep asking me for meetings and I need someone to help me with all of this. A lot of it is like, hey, can you make me a star? And that's just not
I want to be famous.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just not what the business is. And I think anyone that like does go and research the business, and you can do it without going and like, with I don't want this to come across as like I'm slagging schools or anything. But there's enough podcasts out there. There's enough online resources out there. There's enough YouTube videos with artist managers just talking in roundtable format about different things that are going on in the world, that you can at least go and get a general understanding of the music business before trying to jump feet first into it. And I think that helps the artist understand what their expectations are, and it helps the industry side, when they're talking to the artist, just feel more comfortable that they know that the artist knows what they're getting into, that it's not absolutely day one. Like, it's just like, it definitely makes the whole relationship that much stronger.
It's true.
Now at the same time that, I've also heard an amazing song, talk to somebody and they have absolutely no idea what a manager does or what A&R means and what the difference between production and publishing are. Like that's an actual one.
Yeah. Super new. Huh.
Yeah. Like super new, like just people that, and sometimes the music is so good or the person is so good and that you just want to help work with them anyways. So then you start, you know, and you're just like,
Yeah,
you know what,
that doesn't happen
I'll
too
teach
often
you
though,
everything I know. Probably not, you know.
but it's
I
not
think,
unheard of.
yeah, it's definitely not unheard of. And usually it comes with age too. Like usually those people are younger when you meet them. They have no idea about the business, and you can't fault them for that. You know, it's like, hey, you're an 18-year-old that wrote an incredible song that, you know, just came out of high school. It's like, why would you know about the music business?
Yeah,
Let
good
me
point.
teach you.
Good point. Yeah, good point. Do you ever feel like a gatekeeper to the industry?
No, I don't think so.
I've before, so you're not doing A&R anymore, but A&R gets that reputation sometimes.
I think years ago, yes,
Not so much now?
absolutely. I know, because it, you know, this goes back to the whether or not labels are the driving force, you know, and how does independent music fit into the big like landscape of everything. The fact that you and I could literally go from this podcast, record a song, and get it up on Spotify in 6 weeks, and you know, be able to pitch it through the Spotify for Artists app means that there really is no gatekeeper to releasing music. You know, they're used to, back when I was young and in a band and we wanted to print CDs, like we didn't even know how to do that. You know, we were printing off CDRs and selling those instead because we just had no idea how to actually, you know, or we didn't have the money to go and like do like a big run of, you know, 500 CDs. And then if you had 500 CDs, how did you get them in stores? Like there was just,
That's another
I had
step. Yeah.
no idea at the time. And I think as the business opened up, and you know, companies like TuneCore and DistroKid and stuff started making it so that anyone could put music on the internet. I think the idea of gatekeeper, A&Rs being gatekeepers or labels being gatekeepers, kind of went away. I do think that, you know, there are publicity gatekeepers, and I don't mean that in the sense of like a publicist, but I mean like there's certain like I'm maybe not so much anymore, but there was a point where Pitchfork could break your band. You know, it's like if you got that Pitchfork review that was above 5, like you were playing Coachella.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. Cool. Well, that's debunked now. All right. How do you, as a manager, decide on producers? I know you're big on team and establishing relationships ahead of time, but how does that process look?
Typically, so let's say I sign you, right?
Hey, I like that.
Manager and or whatever. We're gonna go make a record together. You know, so I'll sit down with you and ask you, you know, what records do you like? What sound do you want to make? You know, how do you want it to sound in the end? And then the idea is about finding maybe it's a very obvious option. Maybe there's a handful of people, you know, that all kind of make the records that you want to make. And then we'll go out and I think interview is the wrong word, but we'll go out and meet a couple different producers and take budget into account, you know, depending on how much money you have or the label that's behind this is how much money they want to put forward. And we'll sit with each producer and it's about finding the right vibe and it's about finding the right, like, what's the skill set that they're bringing that will complement your skill set. Maybe they're a producer that does rely more on the beats and the sonics than they do the songwriting. But as your team member, I'm like, we probably should get someone that focuses a little more on songwriting than on making the, you know, the bed track killer. And then, you know, and then you and I would talk about it and be like, well, I really like the vibe of, you know, producer A, but producer B seemed to be a little more like entrenched in songwriting, and maybe that will help us out in the end. And that's pretty much it. And then it's just like it's a really personal thing. You know, you have to find. It's not just about hiring the big name. It's not just about hiring the one guy that did the record that's your favorite record. It's about making sure that your art will be produced, for lack of an easier way of explaining it, and making sure that they'll bring that piece to the table that's going to help make it the best it can possibly be.
I hear you. What about instances where you've got your artist, you're working well with them, you found a producer or a manager, or they have their producer or manager, but something pops off and you've got to adjust your strategy. or your approach? How do you deal with that?
Um, Sorry, like, do you mean approach in
terms of you're struggling to work with a manager, like you had a good relationship, or you had a good relationship with your manager or with your producer or someone else on the team, and all of a sudden the dynamic is no longer working well and you need to make an adjustment?
Oh, okay. Sorry. When you said pop off, I meant like something just in the plan changes, or like a single hit or something.
Yeah, maybe they didn't like their feedback and they're getting told to try something new with their art or their music.
It's all about just opening the conversation and just being open and transparent. You know, Usually I try to avoid that ahead of time before we go into the studio, because anytime you walk into the room and that red light's on, you are spending money. And I don't like to spend my artist's money or the label's money. Occasionally there will be an issue. And I think it just goes back to being open, honest, and transparent and trying to find a solution. Pivoting when you have to. Definitely have been in situations where, you have to use a different producer. Maybe 2 songs are used with one producer and then you move the record over to someone else.
And that's okay.
Sometimes it costs you some money and sometimes it might even cost you a relationship or two. But you do got to do what's best for everyone in the case, and, adapt and move forward and say your story or whatever the case may be. You just got to keep going. I find it usually doesn't happen though. Typically you're able to sit down and kind of hash that stuff out beforehand.
Yeah. At least it's wise to sit down and hash it out beforehand to avoid that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, everyone just sits down, has a couple conversations of being like, hey, like, how is this going to work? How do we do this? And then, once you get in the studio and the red buttons hit, it's all fun and games. And it should be an exciting time for everyone. And usually it is.
Yeah. I like that. Wow. That brings us to the very end of the episode, which was super awesome. I had a great time. I hope you had a great time.
I did.
This is a fantastic opportunity for you to do 2 things: to share any final words that you may have, and also to go ahead and share anywhere that our listeners may be able to find you if you want to be found.
Absolutely. Always love to be found. I'll start with that one. So I'm just on Instagram at Dan Hand.
Dan Hand on Instagram. We'll also put that in the show notes.
Perfect. You can find the company I work for at InsidePocketMusic.com or Instagram handle Inside Pocket Music. That's the easiest. My kind of final parting thoughts are just work hard, work honest.
Work hard, work honest. I like that.
That's what I've done. and it works. And I'm still standing. So yeah.
There you go. Something to learn, something to take away. I like that. Next, I want to thank our listeners. Thank you for coming out, because we're doing this for you. We hope that you learned something. I know I'm most definitely learning something. Our team is learning something, so we can only hope the same for you. Shout out to our very own Grumpy Sound Guy. We made it through another one, bud.
You make me a star.
I should make you star. Yeah, you're the co-host now. Not.
Can you make me a star, Dan?
Oh, I gotta see your Instagram handle first, bud.
That's hilarious. Lastly, I want to shout out Prevail Media Group. Thank you so much for providing the space, and for the team. You guys help make this a whole. Lastly, of course, Dan Hand, thank you for coming out. We appreciate your time. That's it. We out.
Thank you so much for having me.
Beautiful.
This has been a lot of fun.
Cheers. Thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this, then follow us on Instagram at go.produce. Check out our show notes, support us on Patreon, and help us grow this community. All of this and more can be found on our website at goproduce.ca. I am Big Lou, and I want to make sure that until next time, you go produce.